Olympics, Australia has begun vaccinating athletes ahead of the Tokyo Games due to begin in 70 days. Joining us live for an update on the preparation is Chesterman, Vice President of the Australian Olympic Committee. Ian, thanks for your time today. How's the vaccine rollout going? I understand swimmers have stopped getting the jab.
No, all of the athletes have now had their first jab. We should complete that today anyway. So that's a great landmark to pass. And now we have to wait, of course, 3 weeks until the second jab. The swimmers have asked if they can wait a little bit longer than 3 weeks until after they complete their trials, which we've agreed to. That made sense to be able to allow them to perform without having had the jab just before that most important meet. And then we're, of course, waiting. We had to wait for medical advice for clearance, and they said it was fine. Logistically, it's fine. So they'll get their second injection immediately the post-trials, so the trials finish.
Are there any athletes that are refusing to get it?
Look, I don't have any numbers on that, but I've been very, very pleased with the number of people who have turned up. And also the number, I haven't heard from our sports saying that people aren't having it. I think there's an overwhelming understanding of the need to have the injection. It's good for, obviously, the athletes, and it's good for our teammates if everybody is vaccinated. It's good for our guests in Japan if we arrive vaccinated. It's also good for Australia when we come back if we're vaccinated. So the uptake has been very, very strong. I don't have exact numbers, but I'm very hopeful that we'll have very, very good coverage.
Now, we know there are hundreds of thousands of people, a lot of them in Japan, who don't want the Olympics to go ahead. Are there any security concerns?
No, we don't have security concerns going into Japan. Obviously, the COVID is the big thing of interest and how we manage to run the games in a COVID environment. We know the Japanese are putting an enormous amount of work into making sure that the games are safe for all participants. That's a major commitment of the Japanese government, the Tokyo government, the organising committee, and also the IOC. And obviously, the AOC, we're doing all we can to ensure the health and safety of our own athletes and support staff. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but obviously we're having to prepare for these games as we have no other, and that's taking a lot of work from everybody.
And how are you feeling about it? Are you just as excited as if it was a normal Olympics, or do you have mixed feelings because it's going to be so different?
I think I'm really excited because I've been very fortunate to be on this journey with the athletes, and I've seen how hard they've worked. I saw how hard they worked with the lead into being on July last year. And now I've seen them have to endure another 12 months to be ready for July this year. And they're very excited about their opportunity because they have worked so hard. They now know that the game's going to be different. They know that it's not going to be the Olympic experience that they might have had in the past or might have again in the future. But in the midst of a global pandemic, the games will take place. And so for our athletes, they have their turn in the sun. And that's what really motivates me. I know it motivates my colleagues at the Australian Olympic Committee, is to create that opportunity for these athletes who have worked so hard for it.
Yeah. And what will that bubble look like in Japan?
Yes, we're yet to find out all the details. They're issuing what they call playbooks. We've had Playbook 1 and Playbook 2. Playbook 3 will come out in June. That will give us a lot more definition. But we know it's going to be a bubble. We're going to be tested very, very frequently. Before we depart, there will be 2 tests. There'll be a test on arrival, testing every day during the game. So that's a major commitment to testing, and obviously going to change the way we operate during the game's time as well. But I think that's what gives everybody great comfort that the bubble that they create can be maintained. Athletes will go from the village to the venue and back to the village, so that will be fairly limited for them. And then it's a fly-in, fly-out model, so they'll arrive not more than 5 days before they compete, and basically the Australian team members will leave immediately the day after they finish.
And is there any update on what hotel quarantine will look like for athletes and staff when they return back to Australia?
Yeah, we're very much working on that project at the moment. Getting the vaccines up and running has been the major focus in the immediate term, but now we turn our attention to quarantine. We know we have to live outside the capital. We know we have to come up with a bespoke solution. So what that looks like, we don't know yet. We do have the flexibility of having some charter flights, which we're using, so we'll be able to put those back into Australia in the best place that suits the team and suits the Australian government and the state governments that are hosting us on our return. And it's really just a matter now of working with the different state governments to work out what works best for them and how we can make that work for us.
Ian Chesterman, Vice President of the Australian Olympic Committee. Appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gab.